A $50 million contract lay on the white tablecloth between them. Victoria Hale's manicured fingers tapped the leather portfolio once, twice. "Sign it," she said, her voice cold as the Manhattan wind outside. "And your daughter never worries about money again." Aaron Cole stared at the numbers, more zeros than he'd seen in his lifetime. His hands, scarred from years of manual labor, trembled. One signature, one lie, one betrayal of everything his late wife had taught him about integrity. Across the table, the most powerful woman in New York waited for him to break. But if you want to know why he walked away from a fortune, why she chased him down afterward, and how a wrong table became the right destiny, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The Lexington Hotel didn't belong to people like Aaron Cole, and Aaron Cole knew it. He stood outside the brass-framed entrance at 7:45 on a Thursday evening, his breath forming small clouds in the February cold, watching men in $1,000 overcoats hand keys to valets driving cars that cost more than his annual income. The doorman, an older gentleman with kind eyes and probably a better suit than Aaron owned, held the door open with practiced patience, but Aaron couldn't quite make his feet move. His phone buzzed. A text from Maya, his 7-year-old daughter. "Daddy, don't forget I'm making you a surprise for when you get home. Love you, 3 spelling errors." She was still learning. The message was followed by 17 heart emojis in various colors, which was 14 more than last time. Progress. Aaron smiled despite the knot in his stomach and typed back quickly with cold, stiffened fingers. "Can't wait, sweetheart. Be good for Mrs. Chen. Home by 10. He pocketed the phone, took a breath that tasted like exhaust and expensive cologne, and walked through the door the patient doorman held open. The lobby hit him like a wave of warmth and wealth. Marble floors stretched toward a reception desk that looked like it belonged in a museum. Crystal chandeliers threw soft light across everything, making even the air seem expensive. A pianist somewhere played something classical that Aaron didn't recognize, but that sounded like money itself had learned to make music. He was painfully aware of his navy jacket, the nice one he'd bought at a thrift store 3 years ago for his brother's wedding, and the way his work boots, cleaned as thoroughly as he could manage, still looked like work boots. The other men here wore shoes that probably cost what Aaron made in a month, maybe 2. Aaron approached the hostess stand where a young woman with perfect posture and a smile that had been professionally calibrated looked up at him. "Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation?" Yes, 7:45. Should be under..." Aaron pulled out his phone, scrolling for the confirmation email his brother had forwarded him. Mitchell, David Mitchell. His brother David, who worked in finance and lived in a completely different universe, had set this up. "Networking dinner," David had called it. "Client's treating, wants to discuss a potential renovation project on some properties. Could be big money for you, Aaron. Just show up, be yourself, order whatever you want. He's covering everything." Aaron had almost said no. He hated charity, hated feeling like the poor relation, even though that's exactly what he was. But Maya needed new winter boots. The ones she had were already half a size too small. And Mrs. Chen's babysitting rates had gone up, and the truck needed new brake pads, and there was always something. There was always something. So he'd said yes. The hostess scrolled through her tablet, her smile never wavering. "Mitchell? Ah, yes. Table for 2. Right this way, please." She led him through the restaurant, weaving between tables where people spoke in low, confident voices about things Aaron could only guess at. Mergers, acquisitions, vacation homes in places he couldn't pronounce. A woman laughed, the sound like wind chimes, and touched the arm of her companion, who was definitely not her husband based on the way they were looking at each other. Aaron tried not to stare, tried to look like he belonged, but he felt like an actor who'd stumbled onto the wrong stage without learning any of his lines. The hostess stopped at a table by the window, prime real estate with a view of the glittering city that never stopped moving, never stopped wanting, never stopped demanding more. "Your server will be right with you. Enjoy your evening." She disappeared before Aaron could thank her. He sat down carefully, as if the chair itself might reject him for being too common, too ordinary, too broke. The table was set with more silverware than seemed strictly necessary for a single meal. Aaron had seen YouTube videos about which fork to use when, had tried to memorize the rules, but now, faced with the actual array of implements, his mind went blank. He checked his phone. 7:51. David's client was late, but that was fine. Rich people were always late. Time was something you made other people wait for when you had enough money. A waiter appeared, young, efficient, with the bearing of someone who'd served hundreds of people who were more important than Aaron would ever be. "Good evening, sir. Can I start you with something to drink while you wait?" Aaron's throat was dry. "Just water, please. Thank you." "Still or sparkling?" There was a wrong answer here. Aaron could feel it. "Still is fine." The waiter nodded and vanished. Aaron looked around the restaurant again, trying to settle his nerves. At the next table over, a man was explaining blockchain technology to a woman who looked simultaneously bored and beautiful. 2 tables beyond that, a group of 4 was celebrating something with champagne that probably cost more than Aaron's rent. His phone buzzed again. "David. Client running late. 20 minutes. Order appetizer if you want." On his tab. 20 minutes. Aaron could do 20 minutes. He'd survived worse. He'd survived Angela's death, survived the year after when he'd barely been able to get out of bed, when Maya had been the only reason he'd kept breathing. He'd survived the repo notice on his truck, survived the eviction scare, survived the look in his daughter's eyes when he'd had to tell her Christmas would be small that year. He could survive 20 minutes in a fancy restaurant. The waiter returned with water in a glass so clean it was almost invisible, poured from a bottle Aaron hadn't seen him carrying. Magic trick of the service industry. "Have you had a chance to look at the menu, or would you like a few more minutes?" "I'm waiting for someone." "Maybe just a few more minutes?" "Of course, sir." Aaron picked up the menu, heavy, leather-bound, the kind of menu that didn't list prices because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. He scanned the options anyway. Short rib, diver scallops, heritage pork. Everything was heritage or locally sourced or sustainably caught, which Aaron was pretty sure was code for expensive. He was reading about a duck preparation that involved 3 different cooking methods and a sauce whose ingredients he couldn't pronounce when she walked in. Aaron noticed her the way everyone in the restaurant noticed her, because she carried herself like she owned not just the room, but the entire concept of rooms. Tall, probably 5'10" in the heels that clicked against the marble with perfect rhythm. Dark hair pulled back in a way that was elegant without trying. A charcoal suit that was so precisely tailored, it looked like it had been designed around her specifically. She was maybe 35, maybe 40, the kind of woman who could be anywhere between 30 and 50 because she'd learned how to control even time itself. But it was her face that caught Aaron's attention. Beautiful in a way that was almost architectural, all clean lines and perfect proportions, but cold. So cold. She looked at the restaurant like she was calculating its value and finding it wanting. Her eyes, gray or maybe blue, hard to tell from this distance, swept across the room with the casual assessment of someone who was used to evaluating everything and everyone. The hostess appeared immediately, deferential in a way she hadn't been with Aaron. "Ms. Hale, good evening. Your table is ready." The woman nodded once, a gesture that contained no gratitude, only acknowledgement of a service being performed as expected. And then, for reasons Aaron would spend the rest of his life trying to understand, the hostess led her directly to his table. Aaron's mind raced. Wrong table. This was the wrong table. David had said 7:45, had said Mitchell, had said client. This woman was clearly not David's client, unless David had severely undersold the situation. He should say something. He should stand up, explain the confusion, apologize, move. But the woman, Miss Hale, the hostess, had called her, was already there, standing across from him, and for a long moment she just stared. Her eyes moved over him with the precision of a surgeon examining a patient, taking in his jacket, his face, his hands resting on the table with their calluses and scars visible in the soft light. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe. Or recognition of an error. Her lips pressed together in a thin line. She knew. She absolutely knew he didn't belong at this table. And then, in a move that defied everything Aaron understood about social conventions, she sat down. "You're late," she said, her voice like cut glass, beautiful, sharp, dangerous. "I don't appreciate waiting." Aaron's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "I think there's been a mistake?" She set her purse down, understated, probably more expensive than Aaron's truck, and folded her hands on the table. Yes, I'm aware. The question is whether you're going to waste my time acknowledging it or whether we're going to proceed anyway. The waiter materialized beside them like he'd been summoned by her sheer presence. Ms. Hale, wonderful to see you again. Your usual? Please, and bring 2 glasses? Of course. He vanished. Aaron felt like he was drowning, like the restaurant had filled with water and he was the only one who'd noticed. I'm sorry, I think you're expecting someone else. I'm Aaron Cole. I'm waiting for a David Mitchell, or actually his client, and are you? Victoria Hale leaned back in her chair, studying him with those cold eyes. Waiting for David Mitchell's client? Yes. How disappointing for you. She didn't sound disappointed. She sounded like she was conducting an experiment and Aaron was the lab rat. I'm waiting for someone too, someone I've never met, someone my assistant vetted and arranged. A blind date, if you can believe such archaic customs still exist. The waiter returned with a bottle of wine, red, old, probably worth more than Aaron's security deposit, and poured 2 glasses with ceremonial precision. I can move, Aaron said quickly. This is obviously a misunderstanding. I'll just... No. The word was absolute. Victoria picked up her wine glass, examined the color against the light from the window, and took a small sip. You'll stay. Why? Because I'm curious. She set the glass down. My date, whoever he is also late. He's also at the wrong table, I presume, wondering where I am. Let him wonder. Let him feel what it's like when someone doesn't perform exactly as expected. You, on the other hand, are here, you're real, and you're the first interesting thing that's happened to me in 6 months. Aaron had no idea what to say to that. This woman was clearly insane. Rich people insane, which was probably a different category than regular insane, but still. I'm not interesting, he managed. I'm a handyman. I fix sinks and drywall. I'm waiting for a potential client who might give me work. I can't... Your hands, Victoria interrupted, pointing with one perfectly manicured finger. Tell me about your hands. Aaron looked down at them automatically. They were workers' hands, broad, scarred, with permanent dirt under the nails that no amount of scrubbing ever quite eliminated. There was a healing cut on his right thumb from a sheet metal edge he hadn't seen coming. His knuckles were rough from years of chemical exposure, from drywall dust, from cold and heat and constant use. They're hands, he said. They work. No ring, Victoria observed, but there's a mark. You wore one recently, within the last year. Aaron's chest tightened. He'd taken off his wedding band 6 months ago, finally accepting that Angela wasn't coming back, that wearing it was holding on to a ghost. But the skin underneath was still pale, still marked, still a visible record of what he'd lost. I was married, he said quietly. My wife died 2 years ago. Something flickered across Victoria's face, so fast Aaron almost missed it. Not sympathy exactly, more like recognition of a data point filed away for later analysis. Children? A daughter, Maya. She's 7. And you're here instead of with her. It wasn't a question, but Aaron answered anyway. I'm here to try to get work. To pay for her life. That's what parents do. Victoria took another sip of wine, slower this time. Is it? I wouldn't know. My parents were excellent at many things. Parenting wasn't among them. The waiter appeared again. Are we ready to order, or shall I give you a few more minutes? Victoria didn't look at the menu. The Wellington. Rare. He'll have the same. Actually, I should probably... Aaron started. You should probably eat, Victoria cut him off. Unless you have somewhere better to be? Someone actually waiting for you? Aaron pulled out his phone. Still no message from David. The client was now officially 30 minutes late, which meant either traffic or the whole thing was falling apart. Either way, Aaron was sitting at a table with a strange woman who'd commandeered his evening and was now ordering him expensive food. He should leave. He should absolutely leave. The Wellington is fine, he heard himself say. Thank you. The waiter nodded and retreated. Victoria watched Aaron with those calculating eyes. So, Aaron Cole, widowed handyman with a 7-year-old daughter, wearing a 3-year-old jacket to a restaurant you clearly can't afford. Tell me something true. True. Something real, something you haven't packaged and polished for public consumption. Everyone lies in places like this. Everyone performs. You don't know how, which means you might actually tell the truth by accident. Aaron felt anger spark in his chest, the first real emotion besides confusion since this bizarre interaction started. I don't lie. I don't have the luxury. Lies require you to remember which version you told to which person. I've got enough to keep track of without adding that. Victoria's eyebrow rose a fraction. Interesting. Then answer truthfully. Why are you really here? I told you, potential work. No, why are you here? She gestured to the restaurant. Why accept a charity dinner from your brother? It is your brother, isn't it? The David Mitchell who set this up? Aaron's jaw tightened. How did you... Your last name. His first name, the way you said it. Basic deduction. Victoria leaned forward slightly. So why accept it? Why not tell him no? Tell him you can handle your own business. Maintain your pride. Because pride doesn't buy winter boots, Aaron said, and he was surprised by the bitterness in his own voice. My daughter needs new boots. She's growing. Kids grow. They need things. The heating in our apartment barely works, and the landlord won't fix it because he knows we can't afford to move. I work 6 days a week, sometimes 7, and there's still never enough. So when my brother, who lives in a world I'll never understand, who made different choices and got different results, offers me a chance to maybe, possibly get a bigger contract that could mean I don't have to worry quite so much for a few months? Yeah, I swallow my pride. I put on my best jacket. I show up. He stopped, breathing hard, shocked at his own outburst. This woman was a stranger. He'd just dumped his entire life's frustration on a stranger. But Victoria didn't look shocked. She looked satisfied, like he'd just confirmed a hypothesis. There it is, she said quietly. Truth. Actual, ungarnished truth. Do you know how rare that is? People in my world would rather die than admit they need something. They'll dress up desire as strategy, frame desperation as ambition. But you just laid it out. Your daughter needs boots. You need money. Simple, direct, honest. Is that what rich people find entertaining? Aaron couldn't keep the edge from his voice. Poor people's problems? No. Victoria's expression hardened. Rich people find poor people invisible. They don't think about your problems at all, but I'm not rich. Aaron almost laughed. Your wine probably costs more than my rent. I'm wealthy, Victoria corrected. There's a difference. Rich is a number. Wealthy is a fortress. And yes, I can afford this wine, this restaurant, this entire building if I wanted to buy it. But that doesn't mean I understand anything about honesty anymore. Everyone around me wants something. Everyone's calculating. Everyone's performing. You're here by accident, which means you're not performing for me. You're just existing, being. It's fascinating. I'm not a zoo exhibit. Aren't you? Victoria tilted her head. We both are, Aaron. You at a table you don't belong at, in clothes that don't fit the environment, trying to figure out how to eat with the right fork. Me at the wrong table with the wrong person, pretending this is somehow research instead of the escape it actually is. We're both performing. The difference is, I'm better at it. The food arrived. 2 perfectly plated Wellingtons with sides Aaron didn't recognize, but that looked like edible art. The waiter set them down with ceremony, refilled their wine glasses, and disappeared. Aaron picked up what he hoped was the correct fork. Victoria watched him. Tell me about your daughter, she said. What's she like? Aaron paused, fork halfway to his mouth. Why do you care? I don't, but you do. And watching someone talk about something they actually care about is, Victoria searched for the word, educational. It was possibly the strangest reason anyone had ever asked about Maya, but Aaron found himself answering anyway. Maybe because this whole evening was already surreal. Maybe because this woman, for all her coldness, was actually listening. She's bright, he said. Almost too bright. She asks questions I can't answer. About why the sky is blue, sure, but also about why some people have houses and some people don't. Why her mom died when other kids' moms are fine. Why I work so much if I still can't buy her the things she wants. Aaron cut into the Wellington, which was probably the best thing he'd ever eaten. She's learning to read, and she's obsessed with stories about princesses. But not the helpless kind. She only likes the ones where the princess saves herself. Victoria's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but close. Smart girl. She is. Smarter than me. I doubt that. Why? Erin met her eyes. You don't know me. I know you showed up for a networking dinner you clearly hate because your daughter needs boots. I know you're uncomfortable, but you're here anyway. I know you took off your wedding ring, but the mark's still there, which means you loved your wife enough to wear it for at least 2 years after she died. Those aren't stupid choices. They're hard choices. Stupid people don't make hard choices. They make easy ones. Erin had no response to that. He ate in silence for a moment, trying to process this woman who seemed to see through him like he was made of glass. Your turn? He said finally. Tell me something true. Victoria looked genuinely surprised. About what? You, your life. Why you're really sitting here with a stranger instead of waiting for your actual blind date. I told you, curiosity. That's not true. Erin set down his fork. Or it's not the whole truth. You're here because you wanted an escape. You said it yourself. So what are you escaping from? For a long moment, Victoria just stared at him. The restaurant noise seemed to fade. The conversations, the piano, the clinking of silverware against expensive plates. It was just them, this impossible table, this wrong moment. Expectations, she said finally. I'm escaping expectations. Every single person in my life wants something specific from me. My board wants performance. My shareholders want growth. My family wants... She stopped, something bitter crossing her face. My family wants me to disappear. Politely. Profitably. But completely. Why? Because I'm a woman running a company that men think they should run. Because I'm better at it than they were, which is unforgivable. Because I won't marry the right kind of man, won't produce heirs, won't play the game the way they want it played. Victoria's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. So they're trying to force me out, the board, my uncle, various corporate vultures circling. And the most effective way to do that is to make me seem unstable, unmarried, unattached, too emotional to lead. That's insane. That's corporate America. Victoria took a long drink of wine. So my assistant, in her infinite wisdom, decided I needed to start dating. Publicly, respectably. A nice man from a nice family with nice credentials who would make me look stable and settled and appropriately feminine. Hence the blind date I'm currently avoiding. Erin shook his head. You're letting people control your life. Victoria's eyes flashed. I'm sorry? You're here because people told you to date. You're considering it because people want you to. That's letting them control you. And what would you suggest? Victoria's voice was dangerous now. Should I simply refuse? Lose my company? Let them win? I don't know, Erin admitted. I don't know anything about corporate politics, but I know that the minute you start making choices based on what other people want, you stop being yourself. My wife used to say that. She was big on being true to yourself, even when it cost you. And look where that got her. The words hit like a slap. Erin felt his face flush hot, felt anger and grief surge up in his throat. But then Victoria's expression changed, just slightly. Something that might have been regret. I apologize, she said quietly. That was cruel and untrue. I don't know anything about your wife or what happened to her. Cancer, Erin said, his voice rough. Ovarian. By the time they found it, it was everywhere. She fought for 8 months. She was brave and strong and true to herself right up until the end, and it didn't matter. She still died. She still left me with a daughter to raise alone and no idea how to do it. But you are doing it. Badly. You're here trying to get work to buy her boots. That's not bad. That's... Victoria paused. That's what love looks like, isn't it? Unglamorous, exhausting, willing to sit in uncomfortable restaurants with strangers on the off chance it helps. Erin laughed despite himself. I guess so. They ate in silence for a while. The Wellington really was incredible. The beef perfectly cooked, the pastry flaky, the sauce rich without being heavy. Erin tried not to think about how much this single meal probably cost. Tried not to calculate it in hours of labor, in drywall sheets, in Maya's boots. Tell me about your work, Victoria said eventually. What do you actually do? Fix things. Whatever needs fixing. Drywall, plumbing, basic electrical, painting, whatever. I'm not licensed for the big stuff, but for most repairs, people don't care about licenses. They care about cheap and reliable. And you're both? I try to be. Aaron set down his fork. I was in construction before Maya was born. Framing, mostly. Good money, but the hours were brutal, and it was dangerous. When Angela got pregnant, she made me promise I'd find something more stable. Less chance of dying on the job and leaving her alone. So you became a handyman. So I became a handyman. Started small, just weekend jobs while I worked construction. Built up a client base. When Maya was born, I quit the construction job and went full-time on my own. It was good for a while. Not great money, but steady. Enough. Aaron's voice went quiet. Then Angela got sick and everything went to hell. Medical bills ate through our savings. I had to turn down jobs to take her to treatments. After she died, I was so messed up I could barely work for months. Lost most of my regular clients. Been rebuilding ever since. How much do you make? In a good month? Aaron bristled. That's pretty personal. This entire conversation is personal. Victoria's eyes didn't waver. How much? 3, maybe 4,000. On a really good month. And bad months? 1,500, 2,000 if I'm lucky. Victoria was quiet for a long moment, doing math Aaron didn't want to think about. That's not survivable. Not in this city. Not with a child. I know. Aaron's voice was flat. Every month I figure out how to make it work. I juggle, I borrow, I pay late. I eat ramen so Maya can have real dinners. I fix things for landlords in exchange for rent reductions. I survive. That's what you do. No, Victoria said. That's what you do. Most people would have given up, would have moved somewhere cheaper, would have asked for help. I do ask for help. That's why I'm here. But no, you're here because your brother arranged it. You didn't ask. You accepted. There's a difference. Aaron was about to respond when his phone buzzed on the table. A text from David. Client canceled. Sorry, bro. Emergency came up. Rain check? Aaron stared at the message. Of course. Of course the client canceled. Because that's how things went. You hoped for something better, and instead you got the same old disappointment wrapped in a text message. Bad news? Victoria asked. My potential client canceled. Aaron picked up his wine glass, the first sip he'd taken, and drank. It was good. Too good. The kind of good that made you angry because you'd never have it again. So this whole evening was pointless. Was it? Aaron looked at her, this strange, cold, fascinating woman who'd stolen his wrong table and turned it into something he still couldn't quite understand. I don't know, he admitted. Was it? Victoria reached into her purse and pulled out a business card. Heavy stock, elegant font, the kind of card that cost more to print than Aaron's entire stack of photocopied flyers. She slid it across the table. Victoria Hale, CEO, Hale Industries. Aaron recognized the name. Hale Industries was everywhere. Real estate, tech investments, venture capital, billboards, news articles. One of those companies that was so big it became part of the infrastructure, invisible through sheer ubiquity. You're kidding, he said. I don't kid about business. Victoria finished her wine. I own 43 properties in Manhattan. Residential, commercial, mixed use. They all need maintenance. They all need repairs. They all need someone cheap and reliable, which is apparently what you are. Aaron's heart started beating faster. Are you offering me work? I'm offering you a contract. Exclusive maintenance services for all Hale Industries properties in Manhattan. Guaranteed monthly retainer of $8,000, plus additional fees for major projects. You'll need to hire a crew, get properly licensed for electrical and plumbing, establish yourself as a legitimate business. But the contract is yours if you want it. $8,000, guaranteed, every month. Aaron couldn't breathe. Why? He managed. Because you fix things. Because you're honest. Because in the last hour, you haven't asked me for anything, haven't tried to impress me, haven't performed. You've just existed. That's so rare in my world, it's practically extinct. Victoria stood up, gathering her purse. The contract will be drawn up by Monday. My assistant will contact you with details. If you're interested, sign it. If not, forget this conversation happened. She turned to leave, then paused. One more thing, Aaron Cole. Your daughter? The one who likes princesses who save themselves? Yes? Make sure you teach her that being saved is different than being bought. Some offers come with prices that aren't in the contract. Victoria's eyes held his. Remember that, when Monday comes. She walked away, heels clicking against marble, leaving Aaron alone at the wrong table with an empty wine bottle and a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The waiter appeared with the check. Ms. Hale has taken care of everything, sir. Have a wonderful evening. Aaron sat there for a long time after, staring at the card, trying to understand what had just happened. $8,000 a month. Life-changing money. From a woman who'd sat at the wrong table and seen something in him worth investing in. Outside, the city glittered and churned, indifferent to miracles. Aaron put the business card in his pocket, next to his phone with Maya's message still glowing on the screen.